Fresh 106.9 FM, we told you earlier, we have in the studio with us Dr. Michael Afolayan, the head of Department of Industrial Law of the State University. We're talking about the essence of the judiciary and the role it plays in the lives of common people. Now, Dr. Afolayan, talking about the judiciary being the last hope of the common man, also, we've seen there's also a heightened need for governments at all levels to respect court cases. To respond to judgments and orders, and also that as stipulated by the court. But we've seen instances where judgments against governments, I'm not naming any particular government, but we've seen instances where judgments by court judgments are openly disregarded. We've seen instances where court cases are not obeyed. We've seen cases that have been won and filed and won, and even a year, 2 years after, government is yet to even respond to those judgments or even obey those judgments. What's your opinion on that, please? Well,
I believe it's like Yorubas we say, "Idanwole ara olomba koje." It is a case of when you don't place a premium on yourself, then you are reducing your value in the eyes of the public. Now, the government is one. Both the executive, the legislation, and the judiciary arm of government, they are all government. The three of them work together in order to achieve, a single aim, which is to ensure that there is peace, order, and good government for the people. Now, when the judiciary, as an arm of government, does its job, and there is a judgment, mostly, especially when the judgment is against another arm of the government, let's say especially the executive, when the judgment is against them, you often find that it is difficult, they find it difficult to obey. At times, they deliberately disregard. It's not in all cases anyway, but in some instances. For example, when we look at the issue of giving the money that belongs to the judiciary, directly to the judiciary. It was a tug of war before some states started obeying in Nigeria. In fact, the judiciary staff workers had to go on strike for a very long time in this country before some, the body of governors started meeting and then giving time that they were going to comply with the provision of the Constitution or to obey the court judgment. That should not be the case. When a judgment is given, the government should make it, if it is executive arm of the government or even the legislative arm of government, they should make it, create a very good example of what obeying, court judgment should be by swiftly, hearkening to it. So in cases where you see government or an arm of government not obeying the decision of the court, then of course it brings down the value of the court. Even a common man on the street, we look at it and say, is it this court that gives judgment and the other arm is not obeying? It doesn't have power now. If it has power, then you see even individuals trying to be defiant when it comes to court order and court judgment. And that is why when judgment is given, you see someone running around looking for somebody in government that will stop such judgment or order from being obeyed. What gives the judiciary its potency, its efficiency, and its power is when its order are given, it is obeyed. But unfortunately, you see, when the court gives a judgment or it gives an order, the court lacks the forceful power to ensure that it is obeyed. It is the executive arm of government that has the police, that has the other law enforcement agency that can enforce this judgment. And so most of the time you see, even the police, let's take police for example now, finding itself in a dilemma where the judiciary has given a judgment and then the executive does not want to obey. And so another conflicting order is coming that don't do anything about that judgment. So you will see such things happening, and then it makes the system looks like one big circus of a joke. So I believe that is a very big problem, and we have to begin to look at that, especially the executive arm of government, governors, presidents, and all that. They have to be very, very careful. And when it comes to obeying court judgment and others, because the bulk of the problem lies on their table.
being a judiciary, also being a member of the judiciary will have to take you through a lot of trainings. You can maybe spend 5 years in university, law school
Yes.
comes and all that. So it becomes a very expensive venture
Yes, of
for
course.
one to even desire to be a legal officer or a lawyer to represent people in the court of law.
Of course.
So we look at the overview of the judiciary architecture in Nigeria. We look at the law school, its own work, and we look at the individual law departments of various universities and colleges, and we start to ask ourselves, in the country right now, are we really churning out the right pedigree of people in our various law departments across the country?
Well, I believe the education system is trying its best, especially the legal education system is trying its best to provide and to produce credible and well-grounded graduates. But the aspect I believe that we may have to start looking at is funding of education. We've always had issue with funding of education in Nigeria at all levels. For example, the cost you discover that the cost of getting legal education now, which is the same for all other aspects of education anyway, is being determined by the extent to which the government is ready to fund that arm of or that level of education. For example, we have public institution, we have private institution. Not everybody can afford the cost of attending private institution. For example, there is no private institution where you want to read law now that you won't spend up to 1 million per session to 3 million, 4 million, depending on which university for a session. And then we have public institutions too, where you can at least attend and pay lesser amount, 200,000, 300,000 along that line. But then the question is, how many people can afford this type of amount? Because if the government does not fund education, especially public education, the cost will come to the student. There is no how you can go about it, because the system has to run. So I believe as much as the players in that level of education, which I am one of them, trying to do our best, I believe that funding is very, very important, especially providing the right items, the building offices and all that, where the correct education and items can be provided for the students to learn, conducive atmosphere for them to learn, and then achieve their aim.
I'll let the phone lines open. I'm sure listeners at home have comments or questions for you, Dr. Afolayo, this morning. 080-3977-1069. That's the number to call. 080-3977-1069. You can also reach us on 081-1198-1069. Hello, good morning. I think I know this voice. Pastor Joshua. Good morning. Your comments or contributions, please. I think that Thank you very much, Pastor Joshua. I think we've talked about that earlier in the program, but I still want to shed more light on that.
Yes, of course. You see, it all comes down to the issue of interpretation at times, and at times it is the issue of appreciating the fact, that is presented before the court. I don't see two courts on the same level giving conflicting decision, because anyway, if you take a matter before a high court and that court gives a judgment, you are not going to go before a high court again. If you want to go on appeal, you have to go before court of appeal. And the court of appeal, by its own making and by the law that empowers it, can review the judgment that is given by that lower court. It can review both the facts and the law that came before that judge. And if it reviews it and comes to the conclusion that the lower court came to the wrong conclusion, by our rules and by the constitution, by the law, that higher court can do the correct thing and reverse the decision of that lower court. So we also see it play out even in our local system. Even when we didn't have all this white men court, for example, where a matter goes before a family head and the decision is taken and the parties are not satisfied and they go before the king At times you see the king reversing what the. It is just like that. It gives the system where you have at least another opportunity for your matter to be reviewed. And I believe it is good for our system. So it's not really about conflicting, but
Hello, good morning.
making it better.
Your name and where you're calling us from, please. For contributions or questions, please.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. You see, most of the time when the decision of a lower court is reversed at the appellate court, it is not on the most, except it's on the basis that lower court judge was pervasive, or maybe he went against the rules to give judgment, maybe because he has been induced or whatever. If that is the case, what you can do is to petition such a judge to the NJC, which is the supervisory body. That one is different from the fact that you took a matter before a court, but the judgment that was given there, you are not satisfied with it. You can appeal to the appellate court to review the case. When the appellate court is reviewing the case, it is not about punishing the judge at the lower court now. It's about giving better interpretation or applying the law in a better way, and then see the outcome.
Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling us from? Very fine, thank you.
My name is Tokwe. I'm calling from Abuja.
Your contributions, please, Tokwe.
Please, I just want the man in the studio to kindly give us the status of cases that judges have been summoned to NJC or they have been punished for contrary to cases or being biased. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've had so many of such cases where judges has been punished. We have had judges removed from the bench. We have had judges punished by so many ways, because the NJC does not even spare judges like that. The only thing is that when there is such an allegation, people should be bold enough to write. When you write, probably because he has done something against the code of ethics of his job, then of course if you write, there will be, in fact we have had so many, even at the Supreme Court level, at the Court of Appeal level, at the High Court level, we've had so many judges removed. You only need to type on Google, just type judge remover NJC, you will see so many there. I'll be mentioning names here.
Your name and where you're calling us from, please. Femi from Ado-Ekiti, your contributions, please, your comments.
I think what he was saying was that an order was given for somebody to be remanded in custody, and then that same day or shortly thereafter, that was reversed and the person was released. The fact is given is not full enough, but it is possible for somebody to be for an order to be given for somebody to be remanded in custody, and maybe subject to a particular condition of bail or whatever. If such a person does not perfect that bail condition, of course he will be taken to prison custody, and immediately that bail is perfected, he will be released. It is also possible that probably when maybe for somebody may commit an order of contempt of court, probably he was supposed to appear in court for his criminal matter, he did not come up to appear in that matter. The court can give an order that he should be arrested wherever he is and be remanded.
The warrants can be given for
yes, and if they go to arrest him and they get him there, and in the bid to remand him, his lawyer comes to the court pleading that he was sick, that there was no how he could come to the court, and he give explanation as to where he was, that same court can reverse that same order and say, well, you can now release him, but subject to social condition that he will show up. So it could happen in so many other, except is more detailed, in his explanation. So it's possible.
We have another caller here. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling us from, please. Tell you from a carrier, your contributions, please.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
That's how he's doing properties also. Please go ahead. I'm on radio. I'll call you in by name. Okay, yeah.
What I,
well, it's not a commercial program.
that is not a commercial program, sir.
So
What I can tell you is that you should approach your lawyer to advise you on what to do when you have a recalcitrant tenant. Please know that you don't have the power to single-handedly, just remove or forcefully remove. You may run against the law if you do that, and that is why you should see your lawyer. You should have a lawyer. Once you have a property, you should have a lawyer. And I believe there are so many around you there. Even in Ikere there, so many.
I'm sure a lot would have a lot of issues ready for people divorce.
Of
Property
course.
would have come up today.
Yeah,
But then due to time we can no longer continue with.
I understand.
For the past 15 minutes or thereabouts, we not the program this morning. I'd like to say thank you very much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Michael Afolayo, the
glad to be
sub-dean
here.
of the Department of Industrial Law of the Ekiti State University, Business and Industrial Law of the Ekiti State University. I'd like to say thank you very much for coming on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Well, on a final note, what would be your advice to people on the issue of the judiciary? Now painting the judiciary in good light to ensure that people have a clear understanding of what the law states.
Yeah.
What do you think it behoves on the people also to do?
Well, number one thing that I want to tell people is that the system works. You see, the belief in Nigeria by an average person is that the system does not work, that everything has turned upside
I'm very
down.
intrigued when you say the system works.
The system works,
We are
yes.
privy to the system.
Yes,
And a lot of
yes.
people will tell you they don't have happy
Yes.
experiences.
In
with
fact,
the system.
we have a saying. We say the wheel of justice rolls slowly but surely. It works. I can tell you that. So I will advise people that please, whatever you want to do at all, whatever you want to do, please seek legal advice as to the legal implication of what you want to do. And if you have to take a step and you are not sure, and you know it has to do with legal matters, please consult a lawyer. Have a lawyer that you can speak with. It doesn't cost much. People will think that this is that, but until you approach them, you may not know. Please, let's just take steps and don't let's take laws into our hand. We have situations where people take laws into their hand and they believe that if they go to court, it will not work. It will not this, it will not that. But I want to assure you that the system works. So please just take advantage of the system, and then you will see that it will work for you. Thank you.
Let's say thank you very much for coming on the program this morning, Dr. Michael Afolayo, legal practitioner,
Thank you very
notary
much.
public and head of Department of the Business and Industrial Law
Thank you.
of the Ekiti State University. I'd like to thank you very much, despite your
Thank
short
you very
notice,
much.
for joining us on the program this morning. Like we say all the time, it's important that we all do the right things to get the right results. Also,
course.
my good book says, if you seek knowledge, if you get knowledge.
Of course.
Well, that's what you can take on today's edition of Viewpoint on Fresh 106.9 FM. Hence, hope you join us on Monday for another edition of the program. My name is Bamidele Okunola, asking you to keep listening to Fresh 106.9 FM. Good morning.